Hello and welcome to this video for Ketu's transit through Sravana Nakshatra, which will start on the 26th of April of this year and continue through to the 28th of November. During today's discussion of Ketu's transit through Sravana Nakshatra, we're going to touch on a few key points in this particular transit. So first of all, do you dare? Do you? Do you dare? Do you dare? That's what it feels like sometimes, doesn't it? Right? It just feels like, like we're kind of on the verge of something, and this one part of us just really wants to go, you know what? I'm just going into it wholeheartedly. I'm just going to go into it wholeheartedly. You know why? Because I have to follow this little hunch that I've got inside of myself. And then you get right to the edge of that friggin' precipice, and what do? You pull yourself back. You pull yourself back. You hold on. Why? Because you're afraid of, if you jump, there's not going to be a net, right? And sure, so maybe that's actually really wise. It's important to honor that feeling of, if I jump, there may not be a net, because who knows? You may jump and go like that and just go completely splat and leave a mess all over the place that somebody will have to come along and clean up. And in most of those instances, who's got to clean up that mess? It usually ends up being you, doesn't it? So then that hesitancy, that sense of hesitancy, that concern makes sense. But at the same time, you can't live your life going right to the edge, and then holding yourself back and not getting anywhere. Now, there are some important changes that are needing to take place in your life, and you're needing to move towards that goal of creating those changes. But it seems like during part of this particular transit, which again, as I said, it starts on the 26th of April and continues through to the 28th of November, with that, crazy precipice moment, right, taking place between the 26th of June and the 17th of July. Okay, so let's talk about that precipice, and let's talk about pulling yourself back, and let's talk about Ketu's function and all of that, right? So let's understand the nodes, first of all, and how they tend to function. Ketu on many levels, and if you've heard me say this tons of time, tough. I'm going to say it again. Ketu provides that comfort zone, that sense of familiarity, right? And it's important to have that sense of familiarity. It really is. It really is. Why does Ketu give that comfort zone? Why does it give that sense of familiarity, right? And I'm going to be a little clearer with that comfort zone, because it's like it's a comfort zone that's not really that comfortable. And I'll explain here in a moment. Why does it give that sense of familiarity? Well, because Ketu represents those things that we've done. They represent those things that we know. Why? Because we come from a karmic background of having dabbled in whatever it is that Ketu is representing in the horoscope. And so having dabbled in whatever it is that Ketu is representing in the horoscope, we know it really well. We know it really well. But you know what? You can't just kind of cling on to a rock endlessly, right? So occasionally, like going back to that going back to that precipice moment, right? You can't hang on to the cliff forever. It's almost like you have to jump, and it's like you have to trust, right? But maybe perhaps you need to wait until the right moment. So let's talk about this a little bit further. So, Ketu represents that sense of familiarity because it's something that we've done. Now, Rahu's job in the horoscope is to come along and go, yeah, you done all that, been there, got the t-shirt. Do you want to keep doing that? It's boring, dude. Get a grip on it. It's boring. And so it then begins to kind of pull you out of your comfort zone. But as it pulls you out of your comfort zone, all this phantasmagorical, scary SH1T just rises to the surface, and it appears on the grand stage of your life's illusion, and it just kind of begins to freak you right the you-know-what out, right? And because it's freaking you out, what do? You go back to what Ketu represents. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Sravana Nakshatra, which gives the power of connection. The one of the ideas implicated here is the fact of connecting an individual to a particular path, whatever that path might be about. And that's going to relate to wherever Ketu is transiting in your chart, and also whatever Mars rules. And we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. But Ketu, with the path that it's trying to connect you to, you can only follow a path if you have an idea of where you're going, at least if you're going to try to stay within your comfort zone. Okay, but the problem is we occasionally end up going through these periods where we're not really sure. We're not really sure if we are on the right path. We're not really sure if we're perceiving something correctly. And sometimes we have this little moment where a light comes on, right? But we don't know if that little light that's coming on is like a black light that's kind of, casting an incandescent glow on everything that we're looking at, making it seem a little shinier than it actually is, or if we're actually seeing something in the purity of its essence and the clarity of what it actually is. So, number one, what happens first initially, if it's that like incandescent day glow scenario, right? Well, if it's that incandescent day glow scenario, you begin to develop all these ideas, right? And when you develop all those ideas, you then begin to build pathways towards those particular ideas or those particular ideals, and you begin to move towards it, only to find that some other stuff comes up. And before you know it, you're bombarded with all these different options, all these different scenarios. And whereas previously you had a good idea of what you were looking at, now you're not certain because you're looking at things in a completely different light. So if you're looking at things and you're actually seeing things as they are, then you're able to understand that on one level and on one very, I don't want to say limited level, because it's not a limited level, right? It's just a limited level within the quote unquote material plane of existence. But on one level, if you're seeing things in the clear light of the essence of what they are, you're not going to make that mistake. Why? Because you'll understand that on one level, it doesn't matter if what you were seeing was day glow and you kind of jumped off a cliff and went through a lot of difficulty, right? Or if what you saw was, actuality, even if that actuality is something that's bleak and grayer than what you were looking at before. It doesn't matter which of those paths you follow, because no matter which path you're on, you're going to get to that eventual destination. But the problem is we're here, right on, as it's often called, Turtle Island here, planet Earth, and we're having to kind of work through all this consciousness craziness stuff that we're going through, right? And so, it's no good saying, it's just an illusion. It's not going to matter if I do this, and it's not going to matter if I do that, even though the astrologist just told me that 2 seconds ago. Because on one level, it does matter, right? There's the whole concept of Maya, and people often like to think of the concept of Maya as just being illusion, right? But it's not just illusion, because, number one, if I take this book and I go like this, right? Oh, that was just an illusion. No, it wasn't. It actually kind of hurt, right? So is that really an illusion? No. And so that's that sense that kind of takes you and it puts you on the edge of the precipice, and it makes you go, I don't really know if I want to jump. Should I jump? Well, yes, you should. But you should wait until the right moment when you feel comfortable. When is that moment going to come? Most likely it's going to come sometime after September, when Rahu shifts backwards, as Rahu and Ketu always do, because they move backwards through the sky, when Rahu shifts into Pusha Nakshatra. And you're able to come to a clearer understanding of the boundaries that you're actually dealing with. Because what is a safety net but a boundary? It's a boundary that when you jump, it catches you, right? So while we're here in consciousness, resolving all this garbage, that's inside of here, it's good to have that boundary. It's good to know where the edge is and to know that you can't go any further, such as knowing that if you hit yourself over the head with the notebook, it's actually going to hurt. That didn't feel that good. But hey, it was fun, right? Okay, so it made a point, right? So it's good to know where those boundaries are. And probably after September, you'll know where those boundaries are. Because what's going to happen is after Mars moves into a very close section of the sky, like a 3-degree area of the sky, which happens in June, around the 6th of June, it's going to conjunct Ketu. And then Mars is going to move to the edge of that, I want to say that almost exactitude of its conjunction, because I'm working with a particular degree position here. And I'm not going to go too deeply into that. It's too confusing. But it'll go right to the edge of that. And then on the 26th of June, it's going to go back retrograde over all of that stuff until about the 17th of July. And so basically, when that begins to happen, well, Mars is going to continue going retrograde. Sorry, I should be clear on that. We'll do a video on Mars going retrograde in the future. I'm talking about Mars retrograding through that really close conjunction that it's having with Ketu. That's going to take place between the 26th of June and the 17th of July. And before all of you go, no, it's this date and this date, it depends on what calculation you're working with for the notes. But basically, that retrogradation of Mars through that portion of the sky that I'm talking about is going to send you on a journey of self-exploration, right? Because when Mars goes retrograde, Mars is kind of like the cosmic surgeon, so to speak. So he's going to take you on this journey of exploration, on this very deep journey, causing you to, penetrate through to the very depths of things, right? And then, after he moves forward and is moving back forward enough, by the time you get to September, when Rahu is going to shift into Pusha Nakshatra, and Mars is actually moving closer to its motion of pushing through that section of the sky again with Ketu as Mars is moving forward, then it's all going to begin to make more sense. But I can tell you that when you get to that destination, when you get to that goal, when you connect to that path that you're needing to connect to take you out of those areas of your chart where you're experiencing difficulty with wherever Mars rules in your chart and with wherever Ketu is transiting in your chart, because there is going to be some quote unquote problems with that area that you've been trying to resolve for a while. By the time you begin to be clear about what it is that you need to do, you are going to reflect back on all of this and you're going to go, you know what? Ultimately, it may not have mattered if I made that move when I was hesitant, or if I made that move when I felt confident. Either way, it would have worked out okay, right? But they always say hindsight is 20/20. So if you're looking back on that, of course it's going to seem that way. You're going to go, well, it would have been fine to do that, but you didn't do that. You waited until you were confident, right? And there's a reason for that. That confidence factor is very important. We need something to kind of hold on to until we're ready to let go. And when we're ready to let go, we'll let go altogether, right? But equally, and I'm really confusing the hell out of you right now. I know that I am. Probably not. But, equally, at the same time, because Sravana Nakshatra has this connection to Vishnu. And Vishnu is that essence of God that permeates all things. And so it's going to help you to recognize that all paths are the same. All paths are leading you to that destination. It's all a question of how you want to get there. Do you want to get to that destination with this, fearless, I don't care if I go jump off the edge of something and end up with a few bangs and bruises here? Do you want that approach? Because if you want that approach, sure, you could take that approach. And on a certain level, it probably wouldn't matter, but you wouldn't feel that good. You'd have like that achy head like I have from going like that, right? And you don't really want that. Or if you wait until you're feeling a little more comfortable and a little more confident, and you wait for nature and the universe and God to work its magic and take you to that destination that you're really needing to go to, then you'll feel like you made a decision with the natural flow of things. And then you're going to look back on it, and sure, you may look back at that period of time between like 26th of June to 17th of July, or actually probably more like about mid-June is what I'm guessing from astrological information I've got here, because that'll precede Mars's retrograde motion. You'll look back on that period and you'll go, you know what? I feel like I shouldn't have held on, that really it might have been fine moving forward. But you can always shoulda, coulda, woulda, and maybe I should have done this to yourself. But really, it's best that you just let it take the path that it needs to take. In either instance, the path is going to work out okay. It's going to take you to the destination. But hey, why not make that decision with a little more confidence and with a little more solidity of heart and mind joined in union, right? It's always good to trust your intuition. It's always good to trust your intuition, but much like what I was talking about with that day glow analogy, when you're not certain of your intuition, you need to wait until things are clear, until things are crystalline, until things are lucid. And then when things are lucid, you'll recognize that your intuition was right. But maybe you needed to go on that journey in the manner that you needed to go on it. So don't give yourself a hard time about it. If you'd like to know what this is about in your own particular horoscope, well, I did kind of give you some clues about where Ketu is transiting and what Mars rules in your chart. And obviously, as we're talking about a very long transit, I can't be specific on how it's going to impact your own particular life, right? Because I don't know your horoscope. But if you'd like for me to know your horoscope, you can schedule an astrological consultation with me by clicking on the link that you'll see in the video up above at this particular moment. That will take you to my astrological services page where you can schedule the astrological consultation of your choice. That's going to do it for this look at Ketu's transit through Sravana Nakshatra, taking place from the 26th of April all the way through to the 28th of November. Until next time, please do take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.